He was seconds from losing everything. His fortune, his company, his name. And then someone he didn't know whispered, "Don't sign that." It wasn't a lawyer, not a CEO, just a waitress who saved his life. But what he did next, no one could have expected. Welcome back to the channel. Stick around till the end, because this isn't just a story about power. It's about being seen by the one person who had nothing to gain. Like, comment, and subscribe. Cameron Knox didn't look like he was about to lose everything. He wore a $5,000 suit. He smiled like he always did, but inside he was drowning. This deal, it was supposed to save his company. The papers were printed. The pen was in his hand. His lawyer and business partner sat across the table, nodding. They were at a quiet downtown cafe. No bodyguards, just business. But someone was watching. A young woman named Ellie. She was their waitress, exhausted, quiet, sharp-eyed. As she poured coffee, she glanced at the contract Cameron was about to sign. One name stood out, Mayer's Holdings. Her hands trembled. That company had destroyed her brother's life. It was a scam disguised as investment. She knew it like a scar. She froze beside the billionaire. Then, heart racing, she whispered, "Sir, please don't sign that." He looked at her, confused. She lowered her voice. "That company. It took everything from my brother. Just check again, please." Cameron paused. His lawyer chuckled nervously. "We're fine, sir. Let's not take business advice from staff." But Cameron stared at Ellie. She wasn't bluffing. She looked scared for him. He closed the folder. "We'll sign later." That moment, it saved his entire legacy. The deal was off. After Cameron Knox canceled the contract that day, his board exploded in anger. His lawyer called it a reckless pause. His partner silent, too silent. But Cameron couldn't shake the look in the waitress's eyes. That quiet fear, the urgency, and most of all, the sincerity. That evening, long after the suits were gone and the cafe lights dimmed, Cameron returned alone. The cafe was nearly empty. He slipped through the back door unnoticed, walking softly past tables. There she was, Ellie, mopping the floor in worn sneakers. Her apron was off, her hair tied back. Just a girl cleaning up the mess of other people's day. He cleared his throat. She turned, startled. Then when she recognized him, her face dropped in panic. I'm sorry if I said too much." She said quickly, "I didn't mean." Cameron raised a hand gently. "You saved me." Her eyes widened. "What?" He walked closer, pulling a folded paper from his pocket. "You were right, that company. Their entire history is fraud. Fake accounts, lawsuits, everything my partner knew." Ellie blinked, shocked. "Your partner?" "Yeah," he said quietly. "He almost sold me out." They stood in silence for a beat. Then Cameron looked around the empty cafe. "You said they hurt your brother." Ellie nodded slowly. "He trusted them with his savings. Lost everything. I dropped out of school to help him." Cameron exhaled. "You should have been in finance." She smiled sadly. "I was." He looked at her like he was seeing someone new. Not a waitress, not a worker, but someone who knew people, knew pain, knew truth. He didn't offer her money. Instead, he handed her a card. "My company needs people like you. Honest eyes come by tomorrow." She looked down at the card, confused, then up at him. "You're serious?" He smiled for the first time that day. Dead serious. That night in a half-closed cafe, the richest man in the city met the one person who still believed in doing the right thing. And he wasn't about to let her go. Cameron Knox had done deals worth billions. He'd shaken hands with kings, flown across continents, and signed contracts that changed countries. But never, not once, had he walked into a boardroom with a waitress by his side. Until now. Of Knox Global Holdings, she wore her only decent outfit, dark jeans, a pressed blouse, and a nervous smile. In her hands, a folder with her brother's case file and a list of suspicious accounts she'd tracked from old news clippings. She was expecting a brief thank you, maybe a handshake, maybe a polite dismissal. But when the elevator doors opened on the top floor, it wasn't an assistant who greeted her. It was Cameron himself. "You really came," he said, stepping forward. "I almost didn't," Ellie admitted. "Thought you were just being nice." "I'm not nice," Cameron replied with a wry smile. "I'm desperate for the truth, and I trust you more than anyone in my company right now." Ellie looked stunned. "You trust me." He motioned her inside. "Come, I want you to meet them." Inside the boardroom, every seat was filled. Suits, ties, power. The same men who had once praised Cameron now whispered as Ellie walked in. A few smirked, one openly laughed. "This is a joke," one muttered under his breath. But then Cameron raised a hand. "This young woman," he began, "saved our company from a $40 million mistake." She spotted something none of us did, or maybe chose not to see. He looked straight at his former partner across the table. And starting today, she'll be working with us as an integrity consultant. Full authority to audit and question anything. The room fell silent. Ellie stood frozen. Cameron, I'm not qualified, she whispered. You have something they don't, he said firmly. You care. Suddenly, the men in the room didn't see a waitress. They saw a force. That day, Ellie didn't just walk into a company. She walked into her purpose, and for the first time in years, Cameron Knox knew his company might finally be in good hands. Not because of numbers, not because of profit, but because of a woman who still believed in truth. Ellie thought walking into a boardroom full of executives was the hardest part. She was wrong. What followed next was darker, more dangerous, and far more personal. 2 days into her role, Ellie began reviewing financial files Cameron had flagged as clean. But something felt off. The company's former CFO, Donovan Reed, had a reputation for being sharp. Too sharp, his books were flawless. No errors, no questions. Too perfect, Ellie muttered, flipping pages in Cameron's office late one night. Then she saw it. 3 shell accounts, all tied to a charity that didn't exist. Money flowing in small, unnoticed waves. Cameron's signature forged. Her hands trembled. She picked up the office phone. Cameron, I think I found something, and it's big. But the next morning, things changed. Ellie came into the office to find her access card disabled. Her files, gone. No one made eye contact. And on her desk sat a single envelope. No name, no return address. Inside, a photo of her younger brother leaving school. And one line typed in all caps. Quit or we start with HIM. Her knees buckled. It was never just about money. Now it was war. Cameron stormed minutes later, after Ellie texted him a photo of the threat. He didn't say a word, just looked at her, at the fear in her eyes, at the photo in her shaking hands. We'll get security involved. He said, no more secrets, you're not alone. But Ellie shook her head. No police, not yet. These people are watching everything. We play it quiet, and we play it smart. Cameron leaned forward. You sure? I'm not, Ellie whispered, but I'd rather fight than run. That moment changed everything. Cameron wasn't looking at a waitress anymore. He was looking at someone brave enough to risk everything for the truth. And he knew they were no longer just saving a company. They were saving each other. Cameron hosted the dinner like nothing was wrong. The penthouse dining room sparkled. Wine glasses clinked. Laughter bounced off the marble. But under the table, his fists were clenched. Because sitting across from him, smiling like an old friend, was Donovan Reed, the very man stealing his empire in plain sight. Next to him sat Senator Halberg, an investor, and the same man who'd once promised Cameron's late father to protect the company legacy. Now he was in on it. Ellie watched from the corner, disguised as a server. Her hands trembled as she poured wine, eyes darting between the men conspiring. Donovan raised a glass. To clean transitions and brighter futures. Cameron smiled coldly. Let's toast to transparency. The room chuckled, but Ellie caught it, the flicker of panic in Donovan's eyes. After dessert, Ellie slipped a flash drive into Cameron's coat pocket as she cleared the table. On it, proof of the embezzlement. Cameron's phone buzzed as he walked Donovan to the door. A live feed from a hidden server Ellie had tapped. Bank transfers, offshore accounts. Senator Halberg's name linked. Game over. But Cameron didn't react. He simply leaned forward and whispered, You're going to return every dollar, or I'll make sure your next toast is from a prison cell. Donovan froze, then laughed, brushing off the moment. Careful, Cameron. You don't want to play a game you can't win. Cameron's eyes locked with his. I already did, and she's in the room. Later that night on the rooftop, Ellie stared at the skyline. Cameron joined her, holding 2 mugs of coffee. She didn't speak. She just looked at him and said, I never wanted to be the reason someone lost everything. He handed her the flash drive back. You're not, you're the reason I didn't. And as the city lights glowed behind them, she finally let herself breathe. Days passed. The scandal quietly unraveled behind the scenes. Cameron handled it with precision, like a man who'd lost too much to lose again. But in the calm after the storm, Ellie vanished. No goodbye, no message, no favor asked. Cameron searched, asked the other staff at the diner, even checked the old bus routes. Nothing, until a call came in from his lawyer. There's something you need to see. In his late father's safe, untouched for years, was a folder Cameron had never seen. Inside it, photos of a little girl with a beaming smile, a note handwritten by his father, If anything ever happens to me, make sure Ellie Harper is taken care of. She once saved my life. I owe her everything. Cameron's hands trembled. Ellie wasn't just a waitress. She was the girl who once saved his father in a car crash, years before Cameron ever built his empire. A child who had nothing and gave anyway. He looked back at the moment she whispered to him at the signing table. That instant trust, that unexplainable courage. It all made sense now. She never wanted recognition or money. She just wanted to do what was right, again. Cameron leaned back, eyes welling. I found her too late once, he whispered. Not again. Cameron returned to the small cafe where she used to work. Everything looked the same, but felt different. The chipped counter, the smell of burnt espresso, the little bell above the door that still jingled the same way. But she wasn't there, and somehow that absence filled every corner. The new waitress smiled and poured his coffee. Haven't seen you in a while. He smiled back faintly. I was looking for someone. Then he did something unusual. He left $100 bill on the table, scribbled a note on the napkin, and walked away. If Ellie ever comes back, tell her Cameron stopped by. He visited again the next day, and the next, each time leaving a message, hoping she'd find one. On the fifth morning, the barista handed him a folded piece of paper. Cameron, stop looking, I'm okay. Some people aren't meant to live in your world, but I'm glad I got to walk through it. Just once, thank you for listening to a nobody. No signature, but he knew the handwriting. His chest tightened, not with sadness, but with something new. Respect, or maybe even love. She'd walked out of his life, just like she walked into it, with quiet strength and no expectations. But Cameron Cross had never lost something this meaningful before. And he wasn't about to now. 6 months had passed. The headlines had faded. The traitors had been exposed. Cameron had regained control of his empire. But this time, he didn't rebuild it alone. He built it better with her. In the sunlit corner of a cozy, upscale cafe. Her cafe, Ellie adjusted the fresh flowers on a table. She still wore her apron, but now, it bore her name, Ellie's Place. The doorbell chimed. Cameron stepped in, no longer in a tailored suit. Just jeans and a quiet smile. He carried 2 cups of coffee. Their eyes met. You saved my business, he said softly, placing 1 cup in front of her. But more than that, you reminded me who I was before the world got loud. She blinked back tears. I only told the truth. And that's what no one else dared to do. He reached into his pocket and handed her a small velvet box. Not a ring, but a golden key. To your second location, he smiled. Because people need more places that feel like this. Ellie covered her mouth, stunned. Why me? He looked at her like she was the only person in the world. Because you believed in me when I stopped believing in myself. They clinked their coffee cups together, and in that small, sacred moment, the billionaire and the waitress became something more than headlines. They became a story of second chances. If this story touched you, hit the like button and share it with someone who believes in quiet heroes. Tell us in the comments, have you